clerk will please call the meeting to order.
Good morning, everyone. We're calling the roll for the Monday, September 9th Board of Control meeting. It is now 11:02 a.m. We have Dale Miller. Here. Joe Nani serving as an alternate for Nan Baker. Here. Trevor McAleer serving as an alternate for Dan Brady. Here. Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Mike Dever. Here. Dennis Kennedy serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lenora Lockett. Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you for everybody. We'll take a minute to review the minutes from the meeting of September 3rd. I will abstain on that vote. I was not here, but are there any changes, corrections, or questions about anything in the minutes? Hearing none, I will make well, I guess I can't make a motion. Councilman Miller will make a motion, second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Is there any public comment today?
No public comment at this time.
And we will move on to contracts and awards. Are there any tabled items?
No tabled items.
So let's start with the first new item for review.
Item number BC 2019-674, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment, subsidiary number 1, to a contract with Beck Deer Construction Co. for rehabilitation of for rehabilitation of 41st Street, West 41st Street, Bridge number 0105 over Norfolk Southern Railway and Train Avenue in the city of Cleveland, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $77,927.40. Also recommending to accept construction as complete and in accordance with plans and specifications, and requesting authority for the county treasurer to release the escrow account in accordance with Ohio Revised Code section 153.63.
Mike Chambers of Public Works asking for approval of this one and only amendment for this project. This will actually close out the project as well. The engineer's estimate was $850,000. The final cost was $760,304, so it did come in 10% under. The amendment was primarily for some additional steel shims, some maintenance of traffic, and also to accelerate the work so that we can get it done as quickly as we could.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Chambers? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, item BC 2019-675, Department of Development, recommending an economic development loan in the amount not to exceed $350,000 to the Hive My Place Ltd. or its designee to assist with building renovation and tenant improvements, purchase of machinery, furniture, fixtures, and equipment for property located at 2019 Center Street, Cleveland.
Good morning, Anthony Stella with Department of Development. Here to present for the loan for the Hive My Place Limited. Our client, Rico Petro, is here. And this is a real estate development company recently formed to purchase and renovate a building located at 2019 Center Street. It was a former county engineer's building. It is going to be positioned as the Hive to house high-tech companies to attract small tech firms, fast-growing tech firms that will create new jobs in the county. The building is in a good strategic location near the Central Business District, will be suited to provide for the needs of growing tech businesses. These are the types of amenities that the young workforce is looking for, to be located near a downtown, to be located near other amenities, restaurants and such that are within walking distance. We're expected to create 30 new jobs to Cuyahoga County with a payroll of $2.2 million. And the project will provide some new benefits to the county. We're looking at about $15,000 in new property tax revenues, which will come, that's the county's portion, and $55,000 in new income tax, which would go to the City of Cleveland. The City of Cleveland is also participating in this project with a total of $230,000. $180,000 of that is forgivable loan. $50,000 is a grant. Our loan would be a $350,000 at 3.5% interest, interest only for 3 years. The first loan from a bank will be refinanced prior to that 3-year portion, at which time our loan will be paid off and taken out with the financing. So if there's any questions at this time, I'll open it up.
Any questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item's approved. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-676. It's a two-part item. Department of Development, A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 46355, which will result in a payment to Fund for Our Economic Future of Northeast Ohio in the amount not to exceed $100,000 for operational support of the Mobility to Work project. And it's for the period September 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. And B, recommending the payment in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning. Ted Carter, Economic Development Director. This grant is in support of our work around mobility. It's to support the Paradox Prize, which is a regional innovation competition intended to provide private sector mobility solutions to workforce transportation challenges. What is called the first mile and last mile solutions. These innovation awards will be selected as pilots and intended to instigate long-term transportation solutions. In Cuyahoga County, it advances our work in addressing distance discrimination, the people to jobs dimension, and barriers to work while working toward equity and inclusion. Our investment is supported by the Greater Cleveland Partnership, the Fund for Economic Future, the National Workforce Solutions Group, and the Lozic Family Foundation, which is supported by the Swagelok companies. Our non-financial partners are Tri-C, Drive Ohio, Towards Employment, RTA, and the Gun Foundation. There are 4 rounds of this competition. The first round has already underway. There were 53 entrants, 3 awardees. 2 of the awardees were in Cuyahoga County, one supporting the city of East Cleveland, providing transit solutions for East Cleveland residents to go to Painesville for manufacturing jobs. This supports several elements of our 5-year plan: innovation, workforce and mobility, and equity and inclusion, and requesting that the committee approve this request.
Okay, are there any questions on this item? Councilman Miller.
Can you tell me what the total project amount is and who's putting in how much?
Sure. I can tell you the total project amount. I don't have the breakdown of the specifics, but Bethia Burke, who's representing the fund, does. The total prize pool is $1 million, so we are 10% of that. And the the financial partners I mentioned, Greater Cleveland Partnership, Fund for Economic Future, the National Fund for Workforce Solutions, and the Lozic Family Foundation are the other financial partners.
Can you give a brief description of the 3 proposals that were chosen as winners?
Sure. Let me turn to my deck here, Councilman. If I can give one, which we really highlighted, which was the pilot, and then I'll ask Bethia Burke to talk about the other 2. So the one in the Cuyahoga County, the inaugural pilot was in East Cleveland with a staffing solutions company and the Share companies, and they are a company that we're trying to recruit here to Cuyahoga County that works on mobility solutions. Based in Columbus is where they started their company, so they now want to move to Cuyahoga County, and they are transporting on behalf of this staffing company residents from East Cleveland to Painesville for this manufacturing company. And Bethia, would you cover the other 2, please?
And to add to what Ted said about the East Cleveland pilot, a couple of things. The Express Staffing Solutions is the company that is the intermediary. They are sharing in the cost of the transportation, and that the objective is to demonstrate that individuals who are right now unable to complete 90 days to get from temp to perm, one of the reasons they're falling off is because of lack of transportation. And if they can stabilize transportation, they can demonstrate a positive ROI to the companies where the individuals are being placed, generating the potential for that company to invest, and that the staffing agency sees it in their benefit to stabilize that 90-day period. So that's that intervention. The second one is a partnership between Manufacturing Works, the American Association of Clergy and Employers, and the Cleveland Clergy Coalition that connects between the Lee Harvard neighborhoods and Glenville neighborhoods to companies that are partners with Manufacturing Works who are having trouble filling jobs, again, because of a lack of transportation. And that one uses the church vehicles that sit idle 6 days a week when they're not transporting people to and from church to connect with residents who have been placed in jobs and to alleviate that transportation burden. Again, in this case, the funding supports that initial pilot, but that the expectation would be that there would be a cost share between the companies who receive the individuals and the individuals themselves to pay for the service in the long term.
And on
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
one, where are the jobs located?
So initially, the companies that have been interested are Vitamix in Strongsville and Swagelock in Solon, but that it would be potentially open to any networked partners of Manufacturing Works.
Okay.
And then the third pilot is with Akron Metrobus in Akron, and they are looking at a demand responsive service to try and understand the potential demand of a route that they don't currently serve, as well as understanding how to integrate demand responsive services into their public transportation system.
Excuse me, Beth, for the record, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm Bethia Burke. I'm the Vice President of the Fund for Economic Future.
Thank you.
Councilman, I'll just add, going back to Manufacturing Works, we are also in discussions with Manufacturing Works about, not in this pilot, but expanding the design they've instigated for this pilot with our sector intermediary in the healthcare space, because that is also an important industry that has deficits in terms of targeting this population, anyone who has transit challenges. And Ken Patsy is the gentleman who is the head of Manufacturing Works, and so he's very open to that discussion.
Any other questions? Mr. McAleer?
Ted, could you talk a little bit about the partners, the non-financial partners, and what they're contributing, like RTA and Tri-C and others?
Well, the RTA in particular is a thought leader, so there was a concern as we launched this that there would be the perception that providing mobility solutions that are not transit-oriented, that this would displace RTA. So it's important to have them. So they're more involved in design and strategy of this rollout, and potentially they will be a funder down the road in a permanent stand-up of a pilot that is identified as a permanent solution. The other you mentioned is
I thought you mentioned Tri-C.
Tri-C, yeah, Tri-C. So this is an area where they are also involved in the strategy development of the long-term sustainability of this effort. So a lot of your students face these barriers to work in the transportation area, and so they are not at this moment a funding partner. But the hope is that both of these will be at some point.
And then just clarification on the funding source, general fund / discretionary. I mean, it's just general fund. There's really no discretionary general fund, right? It's just
Yeah, so that's really a subset that we have in our budget where we use for programs like this.
Any other questions from anybody? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Item BC 2019-677 is being held at the request of the department. Next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2019-678, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 46471, which will result in an award recommendation to Mainsail LLC in the amount not to exceed $45,000 for updates to the web-based advocate information case management system for the Witness Victim Service Center for the period September 9th, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. This this contract is going to be used to make updates to the case management system that is used by our Witness Victim Center and the Family Justice Center. It's going to actually upgrade the .NET framework. It's going to update multiple fields, make updates to the reporting, and increase the functionality. In addition to being used by the Witness Victim Advocates and Family Justice Center, it's also used by our community partners where we share joint clients. They're able to go into the system and actually make updates to the client's case notes. There was a couple questions prior to the meeting. One was what was the original cost of the software, and that was $298,050. And the last time we made payment to the vendor was in August of 2015. We were also asked why we were not doing this as a sole source. And I'm going to steal Lenora's analogy about the burgers. There are other vendors who actually do programming work, but we're requesting to stick with Mainsail because they're the ones who actually did the original design of the system, and they actually hold the source code to the system. So it will actually save us money because they know their system, they can go in and they can do the programming for us. There was also a question as to whether or not we'd be required to do business with them in the future. If we were to look at other upgrades, we would look again to see whether or not it was more cost effective to stick with them, or if we should be looking at actually replacing the system. This is, like I said, we've made the last payment back in 2015, so the system is getting a little bit older. We may want to make changes next time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. McAleer.
Question on the statement that you said it's cost effective to stay. How do we know that it is cheaper to stay with Mainsail if we haven't got bids to maintain the software?
Well, one of the things that we did is we're paying Mainsail on an hourly rate for the work that they're doing, and they're charging us $125 an hour. We went to the state contract and looked to see what other vendors would be charging for the same amount. Plus, as you're aware, we've come to you before for work on the data warehouse, and we were looking to see what those vendors were charging us, and this is actually very comparable to that. The other rule of thumb that we looked at is it's generally understood that you pay somewhere between 10 and 15% a year for maintenance on software. And in this particular case, we've not carried any maintenance on the software. And the $45,000, if we were to have carried maintenance at 15%, 1 year would have been $44,707. So we actually think we actually saved money by going this route.
Mr. Nani.
So generally, I understand why you are moving forward in this direction. The one thing that usually concerns me is when people say that the company that we've been paying for holds the source code. And if it's possible, moving forward in any future relationship that we have with this company or another, possibly having in the contract that we hold the source code. So it may be easier to make a switch if necessary.
We can do that.
Any other, Mr. McAleer?
Did we have, prior to 9/9/2019, did we have this contract for this product?
Prior to now, have we had maintenance?
Yeah.
No.
So then
So what's
now?
Well, we're not asking for maintenance now. What we're actually asking them to do is go in and actually make upgrades. The product that we purchased, the program that we purchased, was based on what our business operations were back in 2012, 2013, 2014. Since that time, our business operations have actually changed, so we want to make changes into the system that reflect the way we do work now. The other is that there's also been changes to the reporting requirements for some of the grants that these clients are being served by. And so what happens now is that right now we're extracting information, we're having to do a lot of grant reporting by hand. This will replace that. It'll reflect what our current needs are.
And then will we be required to have maintenance after 6/30/2020?
Not unless we want it.
If, just going back to them owning the source code, if they do own the source code, how can other vendors then upgrade the system? If we want it to go to another vendor?
We're starting to get out of my wheelhouse. I'm not sure that I know the answer to that question, Trevor.
But we know for sure that they do own the source code.
We do know that, yes. We actually initially, we had two softwares that are used by Witness Victim. We actually approached IT to see if they would actually be able to make the changes. IT looked at them. They were able to do the work on the one software, but on this particular software, it was their recommendation that we go back to the vendor who did the original design work and have them make the changes.
And, I mean, my questions are more centered around not this particular contract, but over the last year and a half, the amount of no-bid contracts that we've given to Mainsail has increased, mainly because of the ERP project, but it's just to continue RFP exemption after RFP exemption for this particular vendor.
I will say that this vendor, we originally came to them as a result of a statement of qualifications that was issued in 2012. So there was a competitive process that originally got us to them.
So I don't know much about the company, but honestly, most of the contracts that I've seen coming through here have been for actual, like, people. Like, it was more, I would consider in my mind, like a temp agency type thing where they're bringing actual people in. I didn't realize that they were a company that actually provided a specific service. So is the person who built this actually going to be doing the additional work? Like, do they have, I guess the reason why I'm asking that is that if it's about a specific person and a specific set of knowledge, I could understand sticking with Mainsail, but if it's any IT person could come in and work on this.
I would have to find, we have a specific person's name who's going to be doing that work. I do not know if that was the specific individual who did the work originally, or what their relationship was to the original project.
Any
I can
other,
just ask one.
Mr. McAleer?
In terms of the contract amount, it, based off, I think, the hourly rate you mentioned, it gives about 360,000 or 360 hours work. Is that going to be enough time to complete the upgrade, or do you anticipate another contract amount coming forward?
No, we do not expect another contract amount.
And then, do you have an anticipation of, after this upgrade or update, how long the plan would be to use the software?
I would expect for at least another 4 years.
All right, thank you.
So this, just to be clear, this is the same company, Mainsail, that we use for support services for the ERP?
If, I don't know what other contracts they have with the county.
I was assuming that.
Well, I mean, the address for the vendor appears to be different than the address for the vendor that I'm familiar with. I just want to make, sometimes when it's ABC LLC, ABC Inc., they're different companies. I don't know if anybody, you guys in IT, does anybody know if this is the same company?
They just had an address change. They moved to Chesterland, so they moved from Beechwood to Chesterland within the last couple months. So I don't know what address you have.
Yeah, the one that's listed here is Mayfield. I know before they were on Chagrin.
Yeah, so I don't know what address.
This is the Chesterland address.
Yeah, so it's up in Chesterland.
Okay, so then we're going to operate on the assumption it's the same company? Okay.
If we can just have somebody verify that for a later meeting, that'd be great.
Okay. I'll make sure we follow up on that through the clerk. Okay, is there any other questions? And you're going to get back on those other issues that were raised too, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just ask one more question?
Mr.
Sorry.
McAleer.
Is there a general sense of what or how much a standard case management system would cost if we wanted to implement a new one? And I know we didn't ask you these questions in advance, so I apologize.
No, but I
for
would
that.
take and state, I'm turning to look at Dan and to Janelle, because we just did an amendment to the Pure Place contract that is used by DSAS, and I think that was,
That's still in progress, and that one, has dollars over 5 years.
because and I'm referencing that one because when I was with DSAS, I was actually the one who handled that bid, and that one was a couple $100,000 with the initial purchase, and we're paying annual licensing for that. This one has no annual license to it.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Chambers. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2019-679, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Reentry. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 46437, which will result in an award recommendation to Case Western Reserve University School of Law in the amount not to exceed $254,080 for development and operation of a law school clinic to serve formerly incarcerated individuals in connection with the Department of Justice Innovations and Reentry Initiative. And it's for the period September 15th, 2019 through September 14th, 2021. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Yes, good morning. Fred Bollethan with the Office of Reentry. This contract was entered into pursuant to and in conjunction with a Second Chance Act funding grant by the Federal Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance. It will provide legal assistance in civil matters that were related to reentrance convictions or time incarcerated, and it will assist people who may be over the income requirements for assistance by legal aid, but lacking the discretionary income to pursue legal matters on their own. It will also provide funding to cover filing fees for the courts for things like a certificate of qualification of employment and for getting their records sealed. The Case Law School was written into the grant, so that's why we are doing that, requesting this exemption. And initially, we approached both law schools in Cuyahoga County, Case and Cleveland Marshall, and Case was the only one that expressed a serious desire to partner with us.
Thank you. Mr. Nani?
Just, I understand how the program works from what the services are provided, but explain to me how people understand to access the service. What are we going to be doing to let folks know that this exists?
Well, any re-entering citizen will be eligible if they look like they would be eligible for services based on income and something that legal aid requires. They would probably be referred to legal aid. This is not meant as a competition for legal aid or anyone else who provides services, but as a supplement to fill in the cracks for the kinds of cases that aren't covered.
I guess how do we get the folks to know that this exists? What type of advertising or marketing of this program will take place?
Well, we will provide advertising in terms of making sure the information is given out to all of the member organizations from the Reentry Leadership Coalition. It will be included in all the literature regarding all of the Case Law School legal clinics. This is the seventh legal clinic, or dealing with different kinds of cases that they will have, so it will be publicized through them. There will also be some community-wide events each semester where they will have outreach and brief advice clinics that will lead to referrals either to the Case Law Clinic or to one of the other providers of services for these types of individuals.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one, sir.
Yes,
It says the scheduled payments is monthly,
scheduled payment is monthly.
so are those even amounts that are billed to us every
Yes.
month? What are those amounts?
The funding is for two things. One, the clinical faculty supervisor, and the other is to cover filing fees. So actually, the funding will not exactly be the same monthly because for the faculty person it will be, but for the filing fees will depend on how many cases are brought that require filing fees to be paid. So it'll be the law school will provide the filing fees and be reimbursed for those.
Okay.
Up to $10,000. The university is providing the facilities, all the administrative and supply costs, and the students who will be acting as the attorneys in the law clinic, and all of those will be certified by the Supreme Court to practice under supervision.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2019-680, Office of the Medical Examiner, submitting an amendment to a contract with Verticue Software LLC for maintenance and support on CME case management software, and is for the period September 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to August 31st, 2024, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $57,099.96.
Is there anybody here for this item?
Our understanding is just going to be next week.
Hugh Shannon
Yeah.
is not available. He's out of the office, but he stated hopefully that Mary Beth could be his lifeline.
Okay. There's a little confusion. We were actually expecting this to be at next week's agenda, but as I recall with this, so I don't have the details with me, but as I do recall from this item, this is a maintenance on their DNA machines. And they were prepared, there's a delay in getting the contract to the Board of Control. They had originally anticipated submitting this, and they did actually submit this item at the end of June, but the law department requested some changes to the contract, which is what resulted in the time delay. The urgency for the medical examiners was that right now the DNA machines do not have maintenance on them, so if something goes down, they can't call anybody in to fix them, and this is the bread and butter of what the DNA lab does. So if these machines go down, it's going to interrupt their workflow.
You can probably call Mr. Nani to help fix those DNA machines.
Appreciate
should
it.
something happen. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nani. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item BC 2019-681, Sheriff's Department, recommending an award on requisition 46749 to Bob Barker Company in the amount not to exceed $9,455 for the purchase of 100 anti-suicide turtle/jumpsuits for Cuyahoga County Jail inmates.
Hi, this is Laura Sims from the Sheriff's Office. We are requesting the purchase, to be able to purchase the turtle suits, as Andrea said, and the cost will be the $9,455. I got some questions prior to the meeting. I don't know if you guys got those, but what we found, the first was how many informal bids were received. We only got one bid, but what we found out through the bid process, and we contacted a couple other places for bids, is that Bob Barker actually has the patent on these turtle jumpsuits. So they're the ones that we have to get them from. And if we were to get them from somebody else, they'd buy them from Bob Barker and resell them to us. So that would not make sense. The other thing is we are asking for, and I brought show and tell, So I'll show you what they look like here in a second. The size that we're asking for is the larger size because they fit the males in the jail better. And so let me just show you that. This is the turtle suit that we're talking about. And what you can see is it's all Velcro construction. So this part will go over the shoulders, and then it actually, on the sides right here, it'll Velcro together to make legs for them. The gowns just go kind of straight across, which are the ones we got before. So this gives them a little bit more privacy, kind of keeps things concealed a little bit better for them. This is the smaller of the sizes. This is the small medium size. The other ones are going to be a little bit bigger, and we'll have more room for the inmates. There's no metal or anything like on that, and you can see that the construction is very durable. They're a bit bulky. Hoping that they will soften up after we launder them. The other thing is that we got 50 of the gowns last Friday, and we got 200 of the blankets. Those were laundered over the weekend, and we'll start distributing those today. The county has removed the sheets from the cells where there is concern over suicide. That's been done. And then also, as we move, one of the other questions, as we start putting the blankets in there, we are going to start with all the mental health units. We'll get those immediately. The VA pod, and then all of the disciplinary and isolation units, both male and female, those will be the priority areas to get started with those. And then as more blankets come in, there'll be a determination then as far as who gets those next. I did try and find out about the durability of these, and the manufacturer refused to kind of give they said that it's based on use, how many times you launder them and that kind of thing. So I did get in touch with a deputy out at Geauga County, and they said, from his experience, he said he'd been there for 12 years and they've had to replace them like twice. So I'm estimating on that 3, but he also said they probably don't use them as much as we may, and so about 3 years-ish on them, but I don't have and I tried to Google search it and everything and was having issues with it, so. Any other questions?
Is everybody, I'm sorry, Councilman Miller.
Who would wear these and where would they wear them?
So these would be mostly by the male population, and these are the ones where if they're going to be on a suicide watch and we think that there's going to be a potential that they would harm themselves, we would remove their regular uniforms and they would wear these instead.
Any other questions? Mr. McAleer.
Laura, this is different than the smocks that were on
Yes.
the agenda last, and I mean, is the biggest difference the Velcro portion? I mean, because they look.
So the biggest difference is that these have legs. These actually turn into a jumpsuit that have legs that cover. So when you sit down, it's like you're wearing shorts. The gowns are just straight across, and they don't have that. And so the gowns will mostly be used for the female population and maybe some of the smaller males, but this provides a little bit more coverage for the male population.
And then in terms of the order, with them being owning the patent, do other vendors sell that exact one, or do you have to get it through Bob Barker? Because I didn't, when we were looking up from last week, I didn't see that one on other websites.
I don't think so. I think you have to get them through Barker, because we actually, when we contacted Charmtex, they sent us back an email saying that they don't supply them because Bob Barker owns the patent on them. And again, we didn't even know that until we started putting that out for bid. And when will these be delivered? Because we're requiring, again, this is the sample that they sent, and it's in the smaller size. The larger size is the more popular one, so we won't be getting these until, they said they'll ship at the end of September. That's as soon as they can get them to us.
Do you think we're going to need to order more?
No.
Councilman Miller?
So are there any other vendors that make a somewhat similar product that could be considered?
not that I'm aware of. Because when we put this out for bid, we didn't put a brand name on it, and so we said, you know, the jumpsuit style or equivalent, so anybody could have bid out on this, and this was all that we got in.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anybody? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Hi, we would like to go back to item number BC 2019-680 for the Office of the Medical Examiner item. Mary Beth would like to make a clarification.
Actually, Mary Beth would like to make a flat-out correction. Everything I told you was correct for the item that will be on next Monday's agenda. This item is, and I apologize for the confusion, this item is actually for the medical examiner's case management system. And as I recall Hugh speaking about it, this is where they enter all of the information on their cases. It allows them to generate statistics for their grant reports.
Okay, so that's already been approved. Does anybody have any reason to go back to that item?
Sorry for the confusion.
County would agree.
Can I just ask a question? About
Yes,
that?
Mr. McAleer.
But similar to what Joe asked a little bit ago, do you know, and you might not know this, but if you could get us the answer, do we own the source code for this case management software, or does the vendor own it? Or at least, do we have access to it?
I will find out.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are moving on to the consent agenda. Item numbers BC 2019-682 through 684.
Okay, if everybody will take a moment to review those items. I know there was a question that was answered prior to the meeting. If anybody has any additional question or comment about any of the items on the consent agenda? Going once. Mr. McAleer?
I know the answer that we got back on the advanced question about looking at the individuals that's been using the software program in, I think, it says in Florida, but oh, okay. I just know that our fiscal officer has suggested this, I think, multiple times about the individuals from the county going to see the N4 product in other jurisdictions, so at least in public works it's happening.
I congratulate you, sir.
For the record, this was for travel for the Department of Public Works, item number BC 2019-683.
Thanks.
Any other questions related to the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Consent agenda, I should say. Madam Clerk, anything else?
No other business at this time,
Any public comment to end the meeting?
and no public comment.
So I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is adjourned, and we will see you next week. Thank you.